Happy Halloween, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed. This is the review of It. Welcome to Derry, episode 2 of the series, which dropped a little earlier. HBO pulled a voila and decided to drop episode 2 on Halloween, which was very smart because this is a very spooky episode of of It. Welcome to Derry. This show so far, these first 2 episodes have been money. In my humble opinion, I have enjoyed everything I've been viewing so far. This episode is entitled The Thing in the Dark, and this is, of course, a prequel to the novel written by the great Stephen King, the movies, the TV miniseries, and so on and so forth. This is the prequel. This is supposed to serve as an origin of Pennywise the Clown, also known as It, and it's a weird origin. You know, it's not the origin where we go all the way back to 19, I forgot what it was. It was the early 1900s. But regardless, I think we're still going to touch in on all that. But this show is set in 1962, where there was a lot going on in 1962. You know, you had the Cuban Missile Crisis. You had racial tensions in this country. Well, that hasn't changed, but it was a lot going on around that time simultaneously, and I think this was a good period to set this show, because if you know about It and the basis of Pennywise and the lore of It feeds off of fear, and there was no time in American history, at least up to date, where fear was at an all-time high. We was just a smidget away from nuclear war. We was a smidget away from a civil war breaking out with the Jim Crows and all this other good stuff going on in this country. It was just a lot of fear that was manifesting in the United States around this time. So, of course, he can have a buffet here in the United States and in Derry. And so it's a smart decision to set the show in this era. Episode 2, well, just to recap episode 1, we saw, I don't know, man, but probably one of the most shocking episode 1 finales or endings that I've seen in a show in a long time, when you witness not only the slaughtering of children, but slaughtering of children who you think are the main protagonists of the show. You know, I'm thinking these are the losers, you know, from just that iteration of the losers, just like we had in the movies. No, they were losers because they lost quick. They were just dealt with by this giant mutant baby at the end of episode 1, only leaving 2 survivors, that being Lily and Ronnie. And so we pick up in episode 2, and Lily, she wakes up, she's having this horrible nightmare recounting what took place in that theater with this giant mutant hybrid baby thing, and she couldn't shake it, and she wakes up, and it wasn't a dream. It was just a memory. You know, this is what happened, this massacre that took place. And so in the real world, nobody really believes this. It is a giant mutant baby, or they just didn't say it, or whatever the case may be. But now they're pointing the finger at Ronnie's dad, Hank, who is over the theater. He runs the theater. The projectionist there. He's the prime suspect of this horrific crime, and of course he is. You know, he's one of the 5 black people that's in this town. So So of course the finger's going to be pointed at him, and he does run the theater. So you kind of put two and two together there. But um, that's where the police are at. But he has an alibi. He's pretty much cleared because he was at home, obviously, and um, the police are just the police know he didn't do it to a sense, but I mean, the town is demanding answers, as we see later on in the episode. And so the police are basically stalking him, sitting outside of his apartment or his house with his mother, and Ronnie is there. And it's causing a lot of tension in the house, obviously, because they can't move the way they want to move with the police sitting out there waiting on him to make a mistake or something, any little thing, so they can have an excuse to arrest him and apprehend him. And Hank's mom and Ronnie's grandmother is really laying on the pressure and telling Hank to send Ronnie back to school. And she's convinced that this is the best way for her to get ahead of life and get out of Derry. Because on a side note, a lot of people get stuck in their hometowns. A lot of people get stuck being content in what they're doing or the surroundings where they're at, and they never progress in life, and they never really achieve what they're truly meant to achieve in life. And that goes for any walk of life. I don't care if you're white, black, Latino, whatever the case may be. Sometimes you need to break free and go somewhere else and discover new things and become a better version of yourself. And so that's basically what Hank's mom is telling him about his daughter, because she's saying it in a mean way, in a kind of vengeful way, but it's really for the good. She really wants her granddaughter to get the best out of life, so she doesn't get stuck like her, just stuck in this town and knowing how this town is, get the best out of life. And so we move on to another subplot in the show where we have Major Henloin or Leroy. Let's just call him Leroy. That's his first name. Leroy, he's at the house. He's waiting on his family to arrive, and they pull up to their new house, and it's his wife, Charlotte, and his son, Will. And they immediately sense there's something not right here. You have a neighbor who's, I think she was walking a dog or something, but anyway, she was walking past the house, and she just gives that look. And, the old white woman giving the look of the black people moving in, that look, and that's the look she gave. And immediately, Charlotte, she's like, "Are you sure this is where you want to start over?" But yeah, we get an early taste of that as soon as they pull in the driveway. Leroy presents his son with a telescope, as a gift, and the son is surprised and shocked by that, because he's like, "Oh, my dad do know what I'm into," and he's describing the telescope and what to do, and they finally have a bond. And we come to find out later that he doesn't have a bond with his son. Charlotte told him to buy the telescope because she knows more about him, because in his defense, he's in the military, he's off, he's gone. He doesn't have a quote unquote connection with his son because he's never around. He's always off, working or doing his duties as a major. And so this was a way to try to bond, to try to connect, and it was a win in a sense, in a sense, even though he wasn't the one that came up with that idea. But hey, that's why you have backups. That's why you have a good woman by your side to kind of help you through those through those situations. Leroy is still hung up, understandably so, on those assailants or goons or thugs who broke in and tried to beat him for information. and he has a file of the assault and or the crime and trying to get information, and he's finding this information that just doesn't add up to what is really going on. And so he wants to get down to the bottom of what took place. We later are confirmed, it's confirmed, at least my theory from the first episode, that this wasn't anything, well, it was malicious, but it wasn't what we thought it was going to be. I truly thought or felt it was a test, and it was confirmed later on that it was a test. It went a little too far with the metal pipe, but it was a test to see if he truly had this injury that we were hinted to in the first episode, but it was never explained. And I didn't know this was a thing. And it was like, oh man, that's a cool little, even though it's not cool because he, he had to go through something horrific to do it, but he has no fear. He has a severed, I forgot what they described it as in the show or how, with the wording of it, but he doesn't have fear due to this injury that he sustained, being shot down or whatever. And that was key, or that is key to what Dare being the military are trying to unearth in Derry. And we all know that it's Pennywise. And we know that Pennywise, as mentioned earlier, feeds off of fear. And so how do you combat that? Well, get somebody that doesn't have fear, to go down there and dig it up or help assist with the retrieving of Pennywise, because the military, in typical United States military fashion, at least in films, want to weaponize, well, no, in real life too, want to weaponize everything. They want to use everything as a weapon. And so their thoughts are, we're going to weaponize Pennywise. We're going to weaponize it. You can't weaponize fear. You can, but not the manifestation of it. You know what I'm saying? But we all know that this is not, spoiler alert, this is not going to turn out well for the town of Derry and the military presence that is there. We get a scene, which was, I don't know why this hit me so hard, but this was probably the scariest thing I've seen all year. Actually, this is probably the scariest thing I've seen in a long time. I don't know why, but this hit different when I watched the show, and it was the birth scene. Now, it's odd that we get two birth scenes in 2 episodes early on in the season, but giving birth is a scary thing. Look, I've witnessed 2. I mentioned this last review of episode 1. Didn't think I'll have to revisit it so soon, but I've witnessed 2 births in person, and yes, it is horrifying. From the outside looking in, I can't imagine for you women. Y'all have all my respect in the world, but this one was unbelievable, because last week it was just a disgusting display of this mutant baby coming out this woman in a car. We didn't really see all of it. We saw enough to make you like, oh my God. But this version, we get a POV version. We get an actual first person shooter version of being birthed out of somebody. When Ronnie is having this dream, she's well, not a dream, but she has to cover over her head, and the cover turns into a placenta sack, and all of a sudden she is being birthed out of her mother. And we learned that her mother died during childbirth, giving birth to Ronnie. And that was her fear. Her fear is her guilt that she, quote unquote, killed her mother, because her mother died giving birth to her. And it knows this and uses this. And we get a we get a full-on version of that with the umbilical cord, trying to reverse back into these chomping teeth of a belly, and she's trying to get. I mean, this was just horrifying to me. I didn't know that was a thing for me. I didn't know that was a trigger, but it is a it was a trigger for me. I was like, oh my god, uh, it was horrifying, and kudos to them. Loved it. I absolutely loved it. Uh, the next horrifying thing. Well, let's set that up. The We get Ronnie and Lily. They talking at school, and Lily is asking Ronnie like, they really trying to pin this all on your dad and this, that, and the third. And Ronnie is like, yeah. What did you tell the police? Why are they still after my dad? She doesn't understand. Um, and Lily, in so many words, she didn't say what she said. She didn't say that it was her father, but she didn't say it wasn't either, because she is in fear of going back to the insane asylum, and so she doesn't want to say anything crazy, a la a mutant baby ripped them apart, to get put back into this asylum. And so she hasn't really told the full story to the police. Well, the police is getting pressured from the council and the town folk there about uh, uh, Ronnie's dad. Why isn't he arrested in blase, blase, blah? And so now the pressure is on. And so we see Ronnie, well, not Ronnie, Lily get not arrested, but detained by the police and questioned. And the police uses this to their advantage, that Lily doesn't want to go back to the asylum. And so they pressure her, kind of force her into telling them what they want to hear. And this is a reality, folks. Police does this all the time, okay, to people. Forced confessions, false confessions, and stuff like that. We just look it up. It's done across the board uh, uh, by the law enforcement. But that's besides the point. They end up arresting Hank. So they arrest Hank. Now Ronnie is flipping out. And she's like, "What did you tell the police?" And she goes to the girl's house, and it is a nice scene. Um, Lily's dad, of course, talking about guilt of a parent dying because of them. Ronnie and Lily have that connection because uh, Lily, her father died in this pickle factory because of her. You know, something that she did. I forgot the mistake. They mentioned it in the first episode, but he died in this pickle factory. So being around pickles freaks her out. You know, that was the prank that was in the first episode when the kids put a bunch of pickles in her locker. When she opened it up, they all fell out. That's kids are morons, man. Kids are just evil individuals. I trust me. I used to be one, so I can speak on it. There is some evil people, but she's in the grocery store. She's shopping, and this was the scene. And this was the scene that did it for me. I'm not a big pickle person. I used to love to eat pickles. I would eat pickles all the time, like when I was younger, and not so much now. But after today, I would never pick up another pickle again. I would never touch pickles again after this. This was the freakiest thing I've ever seen with involving pickles. I did not think pickles would become a horror mainstay, but here it is, man. We see Lily's dad's face being kind of morphed by these pickles in this jar, and she's in the middle of a grocery store. But the lead up to that was that scene in the supermarket scene is probably the best scene I've seen on this show so far. Just the setup, the layout of it all, and the payoff of it all was just chef's kiss. I love that scene. with the patrons in the store giving the looks, the smiles, the old Pennywise smiles as she walks by. The guy on the other end of the aisle peeking over and then peeking back, and you seeing the owls move behind her, just shifting like a labyrinth or a maze, and just cornering her into this one spot with the pickles. It was great. The intercom with the voice over the intercom, first saying the commercials and buy this, it's on sale and blah blah blah, and then speaking directly to her. It was just perfect setup. I love that scene. It just built up to that moment when the pickles went pickle, and so she ends up, her mother ends up bringing her to the asylum because of this, because she breaks the jar, and once she snaps out of this, I don't know what you would call it, but she's just sitting at the end of the aisle with a broken picker jar, and so people think she's going crazy again. Her mother brings her there, and we close out the episode with the reveal of the military plan, using Pennywise, and that's why they're using oh my god, I keep forgetting the guy's name. I keep forgetting the character's name from The Shining. Is it no, Shaw is the general. Dick. I know it's Dick. I know his first name is Dick. But anyways, yeah, the one with the shine who was talking to talking to the kid in the hotel, through the shine. But anyways, using him to find out where this entity is, where the Deadites are, and because the Deadites are protecting or surrounding it, and they finally unearthed this car, this old, look like 1930s car, and it's full of dead people, full of skeletons and whatnot. So we know that they're getting close, and that's how the episode ends. This is like I said, I left a lot out. There was the scene with Charlotte walking through the town and observing the town. You see kids fighting. Nobody is stopping this kid from getting jumped, and she goes over to intervene, and she becomes the villain for stopping. It's crazy. And so another sign that the town is not what they think it is, and it's a lot going on, but it's so easy to follow. I think this is a well constructed 2 episodes. I don't know how we're going to proceed going forward, but I have deeply enjoyed both episodes so far. I really, really enjoyed the acting in this show. In particular, the young actors, the actress who plays Lily, Clara Stack, and the actress who plays Ronnie, Amanda Christine. I think those 2 young actresses, I prayed that I live long enough to see them age into just the next big female Hollywood actresses, because they, at the age that they're at right now, are killing it. They are amazing. Clara as Lily, my God, man, that character is holding so much pain and grief and just a lot for this. This is a young actress. I've seen grown, full grown men actors who can't hold a movie together, acting wise. But she is holding this show together so far and doing phenomenal as this character. The character of Ronnie, played by Amanda Christine, is also doing a phenomenal job as well. Those are our 2, I guess, leads as they stand right now, or at least young leads. And they're doing a phenomenal job. Everything is working. Everything is working. Acting, direction, atmosphere, tone. I can't find a flaw. Everything is working. And keep in mind, we have yet to see Pennywise. We we have yet to see Bill Skarsgård, and he's on the show. He is listed on the show. So, and we've seen trailers where Pennywise does show up in the show. And so we haven't even gotten to that part yet, and this is still a phenomenal show so far. I am so happy. I am happy because I'm a big fan of it. And so I was hoping that this would continue the legacy and not cheapen it, not be a cash grab. And I am deeply, deeply satisfied on what we have received thus far. But I would like to know, what did you think of this episode of It? Welcome to Derry, which was released on Halloween for our viewing pleasure. You can email this show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for the show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also, don't forget about YouTube, ladies and gentlemen. Subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this review of It. Welcome to Derry, episode 2. Want you all to know that I love you, continue to love everyone, and until we speak again, you be blessed and happy Halloween.